Hey guys, welcome back to Jace Love Strength. I am way behind on the content and I needed to get you some out there. So that's what we're going to do now. In this particular video, I'm going to respond to Mitchell Hooper responding to hate comments. I have not yet seen his video, so you will be seeing everything, my natural reaction to his first time going through it. Now, that being said, before I begin, I consider myself to be an honest, transparent kind of guy. That's the promise I always make you guys, and I try to live by. So I will go ahead and reveal some information in the interest of full transparency before we watch his video, because it very well may impact the things that I say, and I have no problem being held accountable or letting my bias show. So let's just say that for the last few years, I have taken some flack for defending Mitchell Hooper. When I first started defending him, we had no relationship, we had no rapport. He didn't know who the heck I was. He does now. We have not yet met. I'm hoping to arrange that at some point in the future. But we're still strangers, although strangers, and I think we've gotten to be friends over the last couple years online, at least as well as a couple strangers can be, and a few minutes passing here and there with exchanged videos and stuff. Um, but when I first started defending him, I wasn't defending Mitchell Hooper, the strong man, or Mitchell Hooper, the friend. I was defending him the same way that I defend people online. I defend a lot of my enemies online and a lot of my adversaries online because I try to look at the world through a prism of fairness. And I have no problem taking the sides of people that I disagree with about uh, ideologically, theologically, various things, if I think they're right about an issue. And I have no problem disagreeing with people who are on my side. So many times people who were coming at Mitchell Hooper, I thought that the criticisms were unfair, and I said so. Other times I did think that they were fair. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that's often charged against Hooper, and I suspect that we'll see this over and over through the hate comments, I don't know, but I'm expecting to, is about how arrogant he is and about him being a narcissist and all of this stuff, because that's what I often hear. And it's okay if you believe that Mitchell Hooper is arrogant. When I have defended him, I have said kind of the opposite. I don't see him as being that arrogant. I don't think the man lacks for confidence whatsoever. I think he is an extremely confident man. And maybe his performances and his success has led to him having a slightly higher ego than it was before, or maybe a much bigger ego than he had before. But I still don't see him as being that arrogant. And one of the reasons I've always lobbied for this is that in the past is that, number one, his predictions of how he and his competitors will fare is eerie. And I think the only way that you can do that is if you are honest about the way that you are evaluating things, about where you're weak, about where you're strong, and knowing what you have to adjust. Similarly, I think it takes a certain amount of humility when you are at the top, and he is clearly at the top and has been at the top for quite some time now, to keep training and to stay on top. That is to say, if you're arrogant, once you achieve success, there's a long thing in all competition going around. Well, people will say that hunger is what makes you push harder. Hunger is what makes you go further. Once you get successful in sports and in competition, a lot of times you tend to get lazy. You stop working so hard because you've already achieved that level of success. And I think it takes humility to sit there and say, yeah, I know that I'm better than these guys. At least I was yesterday. But if I'm going to stay on top and beat those guys tomorrow, I have to go out there and train harder. If you buy into your own hype, if you tell yourself how amazing you are and you're untouchable, I think that you don't train that hard. And then I think that very quickly you become very, very touchable. That's my own thoughts. You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree. And if you're a Mitchell Hooper hater, you're already mad that I just had the audacity to say that. So we're going to go ahead and watch it, and I'm going to respond to his responses. I might agree with him sometimes. I might disagree with him sometimes. If you've been watching this channel, yes, you've heard me defend Mitchell Hooper. You've also seen me post videos where I specifically say in the title why Mitchell Hooper is dead wrong about fill in the blank. So I have no problem giving my unbiased views on things. So anyway, without further ado, that's the most long-winded intro you're ever going to see in one of my videos. Let's press play and see what happens here.
Some of the most common hates comments from all my platforms. Time to talk to the haters. Welcome. Leave a comment down below if you want me to answer some more of these. Let's go.
How can you rep the brand lift heavy, be kind when you are the least kind person on earth?
Whoa. I've always said that the brand is something that I aspire for, not something that I am. I don't declare myself the kindest person in the world. And I think when you interact with a ton of different people, sometimes you can be really nice and sometimes you can be in a bad mood. And that's one of the really hard things about having people kind of always pay attention to you. But I trust the opinions of people who know me really well, and sometimes I fall short and sometimes I do really good things. And so, you know, some people are gonna think that kindness isn't my strength, and sometimes it's not, but I certainly think that it's something that we should all strive towards. And I try to be as kind as I can to the people closest to me. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I fall short, but I think it's a great thing to strive for.
Hooper.
Okay, so what do I have to say about this one? I don't have a whole lot to add to what he just said, to be honest. I'll throw in some things here. As a licensed minister, I guess I feel the need to speak on this topic from a slightly different angle, but it's going to echo something that he said there. First of all, I'm not a big fan of hyperbole. I don't know why you would tell someone, why do you feel the need to rep that brand when you are the least kind person on earth? It's okay to say, hey, you sit there and profess to be behind this brand, lift heavy, be kind, but you're not a very kind person. If you feel that way, that's fair. I don't think it's fair to say that he is the least kind person on the earth. We have people out there that are hurting children intentionally. We have people out there that are raping women intentionally. We have people out there that are kicking animals who are hungry intentionally. We have all kinds of people doing a lot of dastardly things, and you're saying that this guy is the least kind person on earth because you don't like him, or maybe you heard a negative story about him in the media in the last couple years. Okay, I think that I'm not a big fan of hyperbole. Now, he does say that, hey, I didn't claim to be this. I strive for that. And I think this is a fair approach to this, actually. As a matter of fact, saying, hey, how can you do that when that's not who you are? It's kind of weird, because it's kind of like saying, if you are a murderer, don't try to murder less people. Just be who you are, man. Become a serial killer and kill a couple more. If you think that someone has some chinks in their armor, if you think that someone is has some areas to improve, then it feels to me like you would want them to be working towards something that brings about that improvement, not wallows in the shadows and clings to their misery or clings to their downfall. That doesn't make a lot of sense or seem very progressive to me. Anyway, let's go on.
Hooper has a lot of honest takes, but outside of training methodology, he doesn't really deserve to be taken seriously.
It's hard to say that they're honest takes and you can't take it seriously. I'm just a dude who lifts really heavy weights, and I've got people who listen, which is really cool. And I think anyone trying to develop shifts their opinion on things over time, and that shouldn't be seen as a bad thing, that should be seen as a good thing. If you flip-flop relentlessly, certainly that's a bad thing, but if I believe all the same things today in 5 years' time, I've done something really wrong. And so, yeah, you guys are seeing some of my learning growth, and hopefully it's trending in a positive direction, regardless of what the area is, but that's just part of having your life online, and I don't think we should be afraid of having opinions shift over time. I think that's a good thing.
Always concede.
So I guess I'll start out here with something where I disagree with him, and it will be an area where you guys might agree with what he just said, and so you'll disagree with me and agree with Hooper, and that's fine. Where he said, certainly if your views flip-flop often, that's certainly a bad thing. I don't necessarily think that's true either. I think that's his position, that it's certainly a bad thing. No, it may be a bad thing. I think that your positions should shift based upon the evidence that's at hand. And we live in a fast-changing world where we get new information constantly, day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute. I believe that if you allow your bias on a situation to dictate how you feel about getting new information, then I think that is an arrogant thing. I think at that point you're not open to new facts. You're not open to new knowledge and understanding. And I think it's perfectly okay to have your thoughts, your processes, your opinions change every day if it's based upon new evidence that you're taking in. Now, I would say that if you're just changing them willy-nilly for no reason, maybe that shows that you don't have a lot of conviction. Maybe that shows it's not grounded in anything. But as long as you're changing based upon new information that you have, think that's a healthy way to go through life, if I'm being completely honest. In terms of saying that outside of his training methodologies, he doesn't deserve to be taken seriously, I really don't have much of an opinion. If you take whomever you want to seriously and take whomever you want to not seriously, but have a reason for it. I would say that you should probably allow an expert to be an expert in the areas that they are experts in. So if he's talking about strength, you should probably listen. Just like if your neighbor is a plumber, you might want to listen when they're talking about plumbing. Now, it's up to you to decide if that plumber only has value as a plumber or if Mitchell Hooper only has value as a strongman. I try to hear people out and take them seriously about every issue until listening to them makes me go, oh, this guy has no idea what he's talking about here. But that's me. You don't have to do me.
In every area he talked about, a far cry from other successful strongmen like Brian, who feel they could always learn from others.
I've literally got tips from fans at meet and greets on how to do things like log pressing and deadlifting. I'll take a cue from literally anyone, and I have many times before. I think I'm extremely good at strongman. I think I'm the best in the world at strongman, but I think I'm far from the best in the world at everything else.
All right, next one.
I think that maybe the most conceited thing I've ever seen Hooper do or heard from Hooper was that laugh at the end of that charge. That was a pretty conceited laugh. Now that being said, okay, in terms of is the most conceited guy should learn from, then I think I kind of already blew this one out. There's not a whole lot for me to speak about if you were listening to the first few minutes, because I talked about, to me, one of the things that shows an area of humility is the fact that he keeps trying, he keeps improving, he keeps striving. If you're willing to change your methodologies, if you're willing to continue to improve, if you're willing to continue to put the work in, then that tells me at some point you don't believe that you're that much better than everybody. Because if you did believe it, you'd stop trying. You'd just be like, good luck, guys, you're never going to catch up to me. But he believes that people are going to catch up to him, so he keeps trying. Now, in terms of who does he listen to or who shouldn't he listen to, he says he takes tips from everyone. I don't know if that's true or not. But I would say that if you are the best in the world at something, that doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to anyone else, but it might mean that it's okay to listen to yourself a little bit. I mean, it's kind of like saying, I guess Denzel Washington shouldn't give people acting tips. I guess Arnold Schwarzenegger shouldn't give people bodybuilding tips. If you climbed the mountain, if you reach the top there, I don't think it makes you conceited to talk about the topic. I think it makes you you've earned the right to do that. That's my stake. Okay, anyway.
This one comes with a reference photo that I'm going to show you.
Oh, okay.
Mitchell Hooper looks like a thumb with a mustache.
This is really true. No, I know. Yeah. Thumb from Spy Kids. I put this out myself before.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. I'm not sure what's going on. Like the back of my head, it's flat. Luke Richardson texted me about this last night. I don't understand why. I think I was maybe just left on my back too much as a kid, but I totally agree with you. Thumb from the Spy Kids, Mr. Incredible, Buzz Lightyear. I've got a lot, but I have a strange shaped head. Makes it look like a thumb, absolutely. What can you do?
Lift heavy.
I have nothing to say about this one. I guess it's a hate comment. I also don't see it as being substantive. The only thing that I would say is that if I looked like a thumb, I can't make my thumbs go straight. So you see my thumbs always curve. I can't do anything about that. They curve to an extreme amount. I can't do a thumbs up. I can only do a thumbs back. If I go hitchhiking, it looks like I'm gonna poke myself in the eye. So for me, the only way that you could look like a thumb if you're shaped like Jace would be you'd have to have one crazy case of scoliosis. So unless you have a severely curved spine, you probably don't look like my thumb. I got nothing else to say here.
Be kind is just about making money, which he's been pretty open about. Hooper, you're a great athlete, but stop trying to be someone you're not.
Well, let's just start from the premise of just stop trying to be someone you're not. So you think I am an unkind person and stop trying to be kind. Why would I stop wanting to do that? Regardless if you think I'm this or I'm that. And by the way, you don't know me, so you don't really know. But certainly it's something that would be good. Is it just about making money? No, it's part of it. But I've also donated over $70,000 back to have help kids with cancer treatments, which I've never even really talked about because like I don't need to boast about it, to get the guys flights from Worlds for their families, to supporting local contests, to giving prize money, to just giving money to different people in gyms to have them donate gym equipment. None of those give a real spike in sales. The exception is probably the one for World's Strongest Man, because not liking World's Strongest Man is a popular thing. But none of those other things caused a spike in sales at all. And I would estimate that I've donated back as much as I've made. I don't think people understand the clothing business that much. Once you hire someone to do it, and now we have Canada and US, hired both of them, and then you pay the overhead, and then there's tariffs and taxes, and then there's shipping, and then there's logistics, and then there's all that. I don't think it's a cash cow that people imagine that it is. I truly do it because I struggle to see the purpose behind lifting heavy weights for a living, and I want it to be about a little bit more. And I think for every person who wants to try to tear it down, there's 5 people who have used it to lift themselves up. You know, people seeing it in the gym and people interacting with the brand, we get so much positive feedback about it. That it's really helped people, and that's the reason I do it. If you do the math, I don't need an extra dollar. Just go look at competition winnings. You can guess what other things bring, but it's really the purpose that means a lot to me.
The guy somehow turns.
I guess what I'd say here is when you're answering questions about your motivations and things, and especially when the motivations are money, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. There's no way to respond to these that you can lobby a real defense in your case. For instance, one of the things in there was they're talking about how it's only about money. And then they also said that he's been pretty open about that. I don't know that that's true. He may want to be in it for money, but when you say it's only about money and he's been open about that, you're saying that's the only motivation that's there. If he has been open about that, I haven't noticed that because I probably wouldn't support him if that was the only reason that he was into it. But I am an evil, greedy capitalist. I'm sorry, I am. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with money, and I don't think there's anything wrong with profit. I do think that there is a better purpose for us. We just had a guy this past week who became the world's first trillionaire, Elon Musk. And the left loves to hate him. I don't. I actually respect him. And one of the things that I respect about Elon is I actually think that he has done something that no one else in history has done, or at least no one else that comes to mind that I can think of. And that is Elon has found a way to turn philanthropy into a profitable enterprise. If we look at almost every business model that Elon is in, they were ones that people bet against him, said that it wouldn't work, said they weren't profitable. And when he started and went into it, he went into it because he thought that it was a problem for humanity that needed to be addressed. He expected the business to fail. Experts expected the business to fail. And he turned something that meant something to him into profits. You don't believe me? Let's look at it. Now, it doesn't mean I agree with him about all of these issues either. I'm just talking about from his standpoint. So if we look at Tesla, the charge was that fossil fuels were destroying the planet and someone needed to do something about it. So he said, hey, I'll go ahead and take care of the biggest way to get rid of fossil fuels. I'll start an electric car company. And experts are like, well, that's stupid. That's never going to work. It worked really well, and then people hated him for it. We have the Boring Company. We have people who are stuck in congested roadways, can't get through road traffic and stuff. And people are like, this is terrible. And we have people dying in emergency vehicles that can't get to the hospitals. And our cities have congested traffic that no one can flow through. And he says, I think I'll just dig tunnels and get around that. People are like, that's not going to work either. And here we are. Then we have people who have like Lou Gehrig's disease, who aren't able to communicate with their children, haven't been able to speak to their kids forever. And he's like, hey, we'll do Neuralink, and we'll allow people to communicate via their thought processes, and we'll develop the technology around it. What he gets is A, again, that won't work, and B, it's the work of the devil, and it's surely the Antichrist and all of this other stuff because we're scared of anything that changes. But again, he went into it seeing a problem with humanity and wanting to address it. And we can see this over and over and over. Maybe you don't think that Mitchell Hooper cares about others. Maybe you think the be kind thing is just to do money. I don't know. The other thing that I would say about this, and I'll shut up and move on to the next one real fast, is this goes into what I said in the first one when I said, if you believe that a person isn't doing that, and then you you would sit there and say, hey, just be real, be who you are, and do that. You are basically telling us that you do not believe in redemption, that you don't want redemption, and that you don't want people to improve. If you honestly think that Mitchell Hooper is the world's biggest tool, if you honestly think that Mitchell Hooper doesn't have a kind bone in his body, what is it in you that would make you think that the best thing for him to do would be to embrace his a-holishness and become an even bigger a-hole rather than try to address it? If you actually think that he is an arrogant schmuck who kicks kids as they walk down the street, why are you so insistent that he continues to kick kids down the street? Shouldn't you want him to embrace and want change? I don't know.
Every topic into a speech about himself.
Oh, well, this is a funny one because you're getting that from YouTube, whereas my YouTube channel for people who follow me. So it's very difficult to not talk about yourself when you are kind of the topic, whether it's a world's strongest man tries this or don't watch me on my personal YouTube. If you don't want to hear about me, it's probably a bad place to be.
He acts like
I guess that's fair. If someone says, hey, Hooper, how do you feel about this? I don't know how he's going to answer how he feels about that without telling you how he feels about it, which in turn makes it about him. Yeah, when you are the subject or the topic of the question or the target of the question, it's probably going to seem like from you. I'm guilty of the same thing here. I'm watching this. This is a video about Mitchell Hooper, but it's on my channel, so somehow I have managed to turn this into something about Jace loves strength. It's a Mitchell Hooper video, but it's really Jace loves strength video. This is all, I've turned it all into something about me.
like his way is the only correct way to train.
How? If like I have a coach and he tells me what to do, therefore I do what he tells me, and then I have opinions on how things should be, and often those mesh. Sometimes they're slightly different, but I literally go to someone else for advice on how I should exercise. I mean, I definitely know that there's one thing that the evidence says. I've probably softened over time that evidence is like hard and fast. It has to be this way, but the evidence is the evidence. So it's kind of hard to argue with like I believe there is one right way to train, a million ways to skin a cat. And so there's optimal according to the research and there's optimal according to your life, and those things often aren't perfectly in sync. And what's more important is that you do exercise that fits into your life. But if we're talking research, there's not a million different ways to achieve the same best outcome.
Someone said, take.
So I guess what I'd say there is, he mentioned having coach laws. I guess that's a slam dunk against the charge. However, I'll go ahead and defend someone. I'll go ahead and defend the charge, even if it's accurate, even if Hooper does think that his way is the only way to do. Would I agree with that? No. But what I would also do is I'd humbly step back and say, he's the best in the world at what he does today. So that doesn't mean he's right about everything, but it might mean that he's figured some things out. You can't really look at someone who is the best in the world at something and then argue that they don't know what they're talking about. They may not know it all. They're certainly not immune from being wrong, but they're probably a relatively good source about whatever the subject matter is, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's finance, whether it is flying a kite. I don't care what the endeavor is. If you're the best in the world at it, it doesn't mean you know everything there is to know. It doesn't mean that others can't be right and you can't be wrong, but it probably means you're going to be right at least as often as you're wrong.
Take a shot every time Mitchell reminds us he's strong. He'll be unconscious in 4 minutes.
Imagine you were the strongest man in the world. Like literally you're 8 billion people, you are the strongest. Don't talk about it. And actually like in my personal life, like never. I don't think I ever speak about it.
No, not really.
It's a really cool thing, and it's my business is being strong. And so when I'm at work, it is my job to talk about being strong, how to be strong, how I got strong, how strong I hope I am in shows. Watch the YouTube video, The World's Strongest Man, and avoid the topic of being strong. Amazing. What is going on in the world?
Mitchell's big.
Well, the JaceMan doesn't drink, so, you know, if Hooper reminds us that he's strong 2 or 3 times, I imagine I'm about ready to pass out. I don't know what my alcohol tolerance is, but as someone that doesn't drink and never has, I suspect it's probably pretty low. So I don't know how many shots it would take to put me under the table. We're also not going to find out on this channel. I don't drink. I don't plan to start drinking. So you guys will have to play that game on your own, but let me know how it goes.
Biggest lift these days is carrying his own ego.
Ooh. It's a real misnomer about me that I have a big ego. I'm not really sure where that comes from. Where do you think that comes from?
I think you're just confident and very sure of yourself, and sometimes people take that as like he's a narcissist.
I'm also very sure of what I can't do. I'm also very sure of my personal shortcomings and deficiencies and whatever. Just because they don't happen to be in Strongman, it doesn't mean that I don't know that those things exist. I have a hard time with a lot of different things about myself, but it's not generally the topic of videos. The topic of videos is like strength, and that's something that I'm pretty confident in. And if you were me, wouldn't you be just as confident? I mean, you'd imagine so. It's always interesting when the feedback I get personally is so different from the feedback I get publicly. And I feel like I represent myself pretty much the same at all times. But I guess it's a thing where people just get little snippets. It's difficult for them to really understand you as a human being. And that's one of the broader things missed in all of these comments, is that I'm a human being who I do my best. I make mistakes. I try to thrive where I can. I try to make up for mistakes when I can. And there's a lot of opinions about it all, which fair enough. It's my business, what I do. But it's very dehumanizing, the whole world of social media, which is why I don't really go on it much anymore. In terms of consuming my own content or reading my comments or anything like that. I'll just go on to watch funny videos on TikTok and stuff. But otherwise, it's a difficult place when, as a human being, you get inflated so much and torn down so much, it can send your head into a spin pretty fast.
Everything.
So I was just going to say, my response to this is, if you sat through my long-winded intro before we ever watched a second of this video, you'd hear why I said that I don't really think has this big ego and he's as arrogant as people say. I laid out why I've defended him and why I actually think that he is a lot more humble than people say. I was just going to reference that and say nothing until the moose said, if you were me, wouldn't you be just as confident as I am? Now, I don't know if that was a trolling line or not, but that comment was rolling in ego. It made me laugh. I don't really know. Now, there is a part of me that says, if I was the strongest man on earth, I'd probably have a bit of an ego myself, and you guys would know it. I wouldn't just be wearing sleeveless shirts. I'd be wearing sleeveless shirts in a shirt that says, I can bench more than you, and a hat that says, guess what, and squat too. So I would probably have a big ego if I could do the things that he does. I can't do the things that he does. Some would argue that I still have a big ego anyway. But regardless, yeah, I'm going to shut my darn mouth and we're going to press play again. How about that?
Everything feels more polished and less genuine lately.
Yeah, we're going to try to get away from that, but it's also, I think, when you rise in social media presence, it's easy to be super organic and just you and hang out and every part of you. But then if you start to listen to people, you get shit for the audio wasn't perfect and the lighting and this circumstance, you should have done this and you said this, and everything gets criticized and scrutinized so heavily that you start putting more and more work into making things seem more polished and personal, and they inherently become less personal as they become more polished. But I think it's time to forego that. It's time to just put a little bit more of myself, my life, what I do, more lifestyle stuff, and develop parasocial relationships with people a little bit more, and just throw caution to the wind a bit we'll have some stuff that's less professional and just more fun and goofing off. And honestly, that's probably one of the biggest things of what's happened over the last several years, is I've trended towards less being myself and more having it be my job. Because personally, I have a lot of fun, I joke around a lot, but I don't think any of that's really online much anymore unless it's a really formal skit. It's hard, and I think that would probably also counter the argument of I think everything I do is the best and everything I do is right. Well, I wouldn't have made those changes, and I wouldn't have tended to put less of myself out there if I was so confident and sure in that. I don't feel that way internally, but there's a piece of evidence that maybe I'm being honest.
You can tell he practiced.
So with this one, I was sitting here trying to think, what does that even mean, that it's more polished and less sincere? And I guess the argument there is that it's not as genuine if it looks like it's rehearsed or has production value. Like, hey, you put a lot of effort into making something that was going to be seen well, even if it wasn't true at its core. And by that charge, I guess I could be guilty of the same thing. I've tried to up my production value. You could talk about the improved backgrounds, me getting better thumbnails, working on descriptions that are more content rich, designed for SEO and to help the algorithm. So you could make the argument that because I focused on a higher level of production, maybe my own work is less sincere. I don't think that's the truth. I hope that's not the truth. For me, as soon as I press record, I'd like to think that you're getting me and you're getting all of me. Now, I might put it into a gift wrapping that is more presentable and makes people want to open it up, but I don't think that makes my message less sincere or less true. It hopefully just makes it more attractive and palatable to people who may not have bothered to listen beforehand when they were turned off by the fact that I chose to wrap it in some newspaper. Now, that being said, I've been noticing some problems with my audio lately. And this video here, the one that we're watching, I don't know how this is going to come across. What I should have done as someone who does care about production value and is trying to improve it right now, I probably should have practiced what I preached and made this less sincere and more polished. I probably should have recorded a 2-minute clip, checked the audio to see how it's coming out and see if it's going to be like some of the last ones that I've done, or if this is going to have this whole metallic echo Jace's underwater audio quality, which I'm hoping isn't there. But if it is, I'm going to upload it and I'm not going to re-record it. It's going to sit there terrible anyway. And then I guess you guys will, if it is horrible audio, you guys will tell the story. Because in the past, when I've uploaded stuff like that, I usually get very, very, very poor analytics. You guys either don't watch or you turn the video off very, very quickly. You won't sit through it when it has poor production value. So this is not so much a defense of Mitchell Hooper, but it is to kind of come back at the commenter and say that if you want something that's genuine and if you want something that's sincere and if you don't feel like you need that high polish and high production value, then show that you care about the substance by sticking through the content when it doesn't seem rehearsed or polished. But from what I have seen with content that I've uploaded, nobody sticks around unless it has A+ production values.
This is interviews in the shower.
No, I don't practice anything. Pop the camera on and we're good to go. Interviews, it's something that I've worked extremely hard at. I was super socially awkward 10 years ago. Talking to a camera would have been a disaster. I even struggled with one-on-one conversations. And so I think it seems like a practice skill because I've had to learn it the hard way. It's not something that came naturally at first. In that, I've had to think over time about how to have answers and how to present myself, how to speak with confidence, how to speak with authority, conviction, and not have an upward inflection at the end of every sentence, all things like that. So I understand why it might seem that way, but I certainly do not.
Okay, 2 things. Number 1, logically, he can't practice interviews in the shower unless he knows the interview questions ahead of time. So unless someone's giving him, hey, here's what we're going to ask you in this upcoming interview, then he has no way to practice it. Number 2, let's just dispel the myth of practicing your stuff in the shower means that you're automatically improve at it. I have unequivocal proof that that isn't true, because I sing in the shower every time, and I am no better a singer today at 46 than I was at 5 years old. I am quite possibly the worst vocalist on planet Earth. And it doesn't matter how much shower practice I have gotten in, I'm no better today. And if I really want to blow this channel up, and I mean that in a negative way, not a good way, not like, hey, blow it up and make it go viral. If I want to end this thing, all I have to do is sing a bar or 2 of any song, and you guys are never coming back.
Every show Mitch has won, he's gotten calls that he shouldn't have.
Like 16, 17 times. To my haters, I am the least liked, worst person they have ever seen. And also there's a cabal that wants me to win every show. I've been told that my deadlift lockout doesn't count, my log lockout doesn't count, dumbbell lockout doesn't count. At some point, this has to be a you thing and not a me thing. Cheer against me all you want, but just for your own peace of mind, maybe just know that like that's kind of the root of it, and it's gonna be okay.
This guy needs...
I guess I'm going to take a different angle on this one. In terms of them saying in every competition he's won, he's gotten calls that he doesn't deserve. Maybe. But I would argue that I've been watching Strongman for Well, since the mid 80s now. I've been here since the beginning. And in every competition I've ever seen, athletes get calls that they don't deserve. They get calls that are favorable that they shouldn't have gotten, and they get calls against them that I think are a little bit unfair. We don't have the fairest thing, and part of that is just the nature of the beast. We have a sport that is judged. That means whether we like it or not, and I am a big fan of objectivity. I'm building an entire ranking system around this. The Strongman World Rankings, which I know you guys keep asking about, and yes, I'm going to get to that. As a matter of fact, we're going to do a live launch 2 Saturdays from now. So I guess this is Saturday. So literally 2 weeks from today, we're going to do a live launch and reveal the world's first empirical, because I said so, objective Strongman World Rankings. So I'm going to set that live up. I hope that you guys subscribe. I hope that you guys say yes, notify me, and I hope you come back and watch that when we do it live. But that being said, what I want to say here is I actually had to go back and newsflash, transparency, I had to rewind a little bit and see what the heck I was responding to because I got so caught up in talking about my own rankings, I forgot what the clip was about there. So the hateful comment is, again, about the concept of getting calls that he didn't deserve leading to victory. Well, again, this is kind of like watching figure skating, and you have judges that hold up a, hey, this is an 8.5, hey, this is a 9 point whatever, hey, this is a 4 point something. It's someone's opinion. You can't prove that that's what it is. Even when it comes to something where you're literally counting reps. Like, okay, did they deadlift that? Yes, that shouldn't be subjective. That should be objective. They picked it up 7 times. They picked it up 8 times. They did more than the guy that did 7. They win. Except you do have a judge sitting there judging the lockout. And so if you want to say that the only reason that Hooper wins is because he has gotten favorable calls, you're entitled to think that. But what I am going to tell you is, honestly, he's not the only one getting unfair calls to his credit and calls against him. They all are. Furthermore, let's also be honest. Hooper has won competitions by such a large point spread in many cases. Even if you were to say, dude didn't deserve that call, this is bogus, he shouldn't have won that, you're talking about maybe robbing him of 1 or 2 points in the standings. In a contest where he might have won by 8, 9, or 10 points, go ahead, take that point or 2 away from him. Guess who still won the contest?
He needs to stop saying that he can break the deadlift world record.
I don't know if I ever say that I can. I say that maybe I can. And I will forever say maybe I can, and I'll keep trying. If I didn't have the thing in me where I go, I believe in myself to do this really hard thing, I wouldn't be speaking right now as the world's strongest man. It's absurd to say that you think you could do that. It's absurd to say you think you could break the deadlift world record, but I hope that people can be inspired to believe in themselves through the belief that every top level athlete has in themselves. Because we all start as regular people who believe that we could be a lot more, and we all have people at every step along the way saying, you will never be more than this. At one of my first shows, New South Wales Strongest Man, I had a guy straight after I won my first state title say, this is the pinnacle, it's all downhill from here for you. I partially take that as like kind of a crappy thing, partially take it as motivation, but at every step of me getting to another level, I've had people say, you will never get to another level. You will never win a heavy show, you're only athletic. You will never win World's Strongest Man. You will never break the deadlift world record. You will never break the axle world record, which I did. You will never this. If you tell me never, I say maybe I can. Maybe I can't, maybe I can. We'll see.
Bringing attention to...
Okay, so I guess what I'll say here is I hope Mitchell never stops saying that he can break the deadlift world record, and I hope you watching this video right now never stop believing in yourself. I hope you never stop doing that thing that others tell you that they hope that you can't do or that they wish you'd shut up about. Dream. Dream big. Give yourself permission to dream, and then give yourself permission to chase that dream. You know, I have no problem with Hooper saying that he's going to do anything. I have no problem with you saying that you're going to do anything. And I have no problem with you daring other people to reach for greatness. I do think it can be wrong sometimes to say that other people are going to do things, or when you say that anybody can do so. And so you guys know I made a video why Hooper is dead wrong that any able-bodied man can deadlift 600 pounds. I don't think that's true. I don't. And I explained empirically using mathematics and physiology as to why I think that he was dead wrong about that. That being said, I challenge every one of you to go out there and make him right and make me wrong. Go out there and strive for that 600-pound deadlift that I'm telling you that you can't do. You tell yourself that you can do it, and then you go out there and make it happen. And you do that with anything in your life that's important to you. Anything that you think you want to go after, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. Don't start telling yourself that you can't do it. You tell yourself, hey, I want this, it's important to me, and I'm going after it. And anyone that tells you to shut up, you tell them, see ya, don't need you in my life.
The PEDs only promotes it more to your younger audience.
I want to know why people think they know my audience. If you look at my metrics, I don't have that high of a proportion at all of people under 18. These things are also not for kids, but I don't see why we need to keep lying about what we do, especially when so many kids do performance enhancements.
I only worked out for like a year. I was like, you know, this, like, I'm taking steroids. That's like
in the least safe way possible. They're hiding it from their parents. There's no doctor involved. They get it from their friend. They're doing just kind of whatever they think they feel like doing. I mean, they don't really understand the side effects because your friends aren't going to educate you on side effects. And, you know, so me putting out there, like, if you were to do it when you're young, fertility is a major concern forever. On top of, like, say you want to be as big as possible, you should probably go through puberty first before you think about anything. But I don't even think from performance, I don't really talk about drugs and performance other than admitting to, yes, I do them. I talk about them for middle-aged people. Say hormone replacement therapy is a medication that could be preventative for every normal aging disease, from heart disease to diabetes to muscle wasting to osteoporosis, things that make you old and frail. You would be less old and frail if you did these things, and with medical supervision. And it's a natural aging process to become medically indicated to take, say, hormone replacement at some point for everybody. So it's something that I think is important to talk about. I don't think kids should touch it. And I don't think, even if you want to perform at an elite level, I don't think you should touch it unless you're ready to take years off your life and sacrifice your health. But I've been promoting obesity for a lot longer than I've talked about performance enhancements, indirectly through being obese and saying that that's what you need to do to be as strong as possible. It's true. And it's a really bad thing for you. And I would guess that my level of obesity has affected me more than my level of performance enhancements. Of course, that's sort of anecdotal and personal opinion, but I'm much more concerned about being severely overweight than I am performance enhancements. I think there's a great upside when taken by the right people.
I don't know.
Okay, so I guess I will comment on this saying that I am a guy that hasn't used any performance enhancements. I'm about as square as it comes. I'll also say that my view on PEDs over the years has shifted a lot. And some of you have been watching my stream long enough to know exactly when my views on this changed and what changed them. I haven't changed to the point where I've started taking stuff, but I stopped being one of these guys, a finger wagger, talking about how horrible it was and being so disgusted by people who did it. And it was by the argument that came from a professional athlete. And undoubtedly, he was doing justification, excuses. He was explaining and justifying why what he was doing was okay. Hey, don't judge me. Hey, it's no big deal. And I knew what he was doing. But it didn't matter that I saw his game. It didn't matter that I knew that he was trying to justify his use of bad behavior and cheating behavior in his sport. What still stood out to me was I can't argue with his argument. There is a logical consistency there. And that is as follows. And I'll tell you who it was and what they had to say. And you can go, well, that's different. And I would say to you, yes, I know it's different. That's why it's an analogy. It's an analog. It's a comparison. They're not made to be equivalents. It's to look at it through a different lens. So anyway, the athlete was Chael Sonnen, who is a wrestler and an MMA fighter. And someone, Ariel Helwani, had asked him about testing clean because he'd gotten in trouble for testing hot for some performance enhancers. And Chael went on to say, hey, I'm mostly clean, kind of laughing it off. And then he was asked by Ariel about the concept of performance enhancers and why he feels the need to do them, and doesn't he feel like it's cheating, and that goes against someone who seems to have his level of integrity and ethics and talking about being this, that, and that, and the other thing. And what Chael had said was, he never really understood the argument against performance enhancers. He says part of being an athlete is trying to enhance your performance. Everything an athlete does is meant to enhance your performance. Whether it's trying to get an extra 15 minutes of rest in at night versus your competitor. whether it's trying to eat more nutritious foods than your competitor, whether it's hiring the best trainers in the world and having better access to coaches than your competitors, whether it comes to taking vitamins and supplements that are on the approved list. All of those things are designed to enhance the athlete's performance. And I thought, he's right. I also thought, well, that's different, though. We're not talking about illegal things. And I also thought, what makes something illegal? In many cases, it may be illegal because we have deemed that this is harmful to someone. In other cases, I'm a follow the money kind of guy, and I kind of believe that we have deemed that something is illegal or banned simply because that person or that entity didn't grease the right palms to make it on the approved list. So it's banned not because it's necessarily harmful, but potentially it's banned because they didn't go through the right protocols to automatically equal, hey, you're a good, solid product. But the other part is when we talk about fairness in sports, which was the argument I always argued for. I mean, I came against PEDs like you wouldn't believe, man. I was adamant and I was aggressive and ferocious against the topic of PEDs. But when I started thinking about fairness, and I listened to Chael's argument, I also thought, well, is it really fair if I come from a family that I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth, and I had private tutors and private coaches at the age of 15, and I was able to stop not having a full-time job. I was able to focus on my training full-time. I was able to go to those coaches around the clock and have access to the best coaches, the best nutrition. Didn't have to be distracted by outside things. And this guy over here, he had to go to the sawmill every day. He had to put in 10 hours a day and still find time to train. Was barely making ends meet, could barely pay the rent, and couldn't afford coaches, and had to actually fight in the UFC 12 times before he was making enough money to afford good coaching. And I think to myself, no, you know what? That's not fair. And I would have benefited from enhanced performance. So what makes it different than the bottle or what's in that syringe over there? I can't really come up with an answer other than the fact that someone said so. And I need a little bit more than because someone said so. Now, in terms of the charge against kids, I guess what I'd say is this. I do think that we need to be careful about how we influence our children, but I also think that the person who's most responsible for influencing our children is us. If you're wondering or worried about Mitchell Hooper being honest, open, and transparent about his PED usage, which I think he should be applauded for being open and honest about it, rather than lying to people, because I don't think deception is a good trait, then I would say, if you're worried about that, then don't let your children watch his stuff. Be a good mother, be a good father. You're responsible for the content that your children take in. Don't put that on someone else. Charles Barkley used to say, hey, I'm no role model. And he, by definition, is a role model. But I think the point was, you shouldn't be trusting me to raise your kids. It's your responsibility to raise your kids. There's a lot of truth in that, guys. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of truth in that.
How this guy keeps showing up after last year.
I don't know if that's a hater comment or a positive comment. That's like one of the biggest points of pride for me, is that I've not missed a day of work. I did not take any time off. I just kept going. What I say to myself is go into the wind and do the hard thing. When you're a public person, especially one that people are excited to take down because of my position in the sport, it's really hard to show up, and you don't really want to. But sometimes you just got to do things you don't want to do, and it's hard. And I haven't forgiven myself. I live with it every day. I think about it every day. I just don't know how things got to that point, really. But I think as a family, we've moved forward and rectified, and our just day-to-day existence is so much more pleasant than it's ever been. And I think there's a sense of appreciation for our family that hasn't been there ever before, from either Ash or I. You know, I think there's something that people have to accept, that you don't really know my life, you really don't know what's going on. But if you don't cheer for the outcome that we've got of everyone's together and we're happy and life is moving forward, if you don't cheer for that outcome, then go f yourself forever. I don't care, you know? And so I think the showing up is all you have to do. And regardless of what you're going through, you show up every day, you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you go into the wind and face those difficult things, and eventually things will be okay. And things are objectively okay. I don't feel okay because I don't know how something like that happens and you just kind of get over it and you just move on with your life. It's certainly not that. You got to keep showing up, doing your best and trying to be better than you were before. So I've gone through some huge successes and huge failures with my family, with my team, with the people around me. And the biggest blessing is now I know who's truly in my corner, who's truly there, and who is there for me through my ups and my downs. And it's a fraction of the people who are there through the ups. And we can all win together. We can all celebrate together. We can have big parties. But when push comes to shove, I know that I've got 4 or 5 people who, if things go south, that we stay really close and I'm supported and also hold me accountable and tell me I'm a piece of shit for doing something and you need to be better. And those are the people you need around you. So I keep showing up with great difficulty, some days less now than before. Doing that hard thing is something that I find extremely important. Haters, thank you for providing such a...
Okay, wow. I guess that's where he's going to end. So I feel uncomfortable addressing this one, but I can't react to his comments of him reacting to other comments unless I react to the comments. So I guess I'm going to do this. And undoubtedly that comment was designed from my perspective. It seems like Hooper shared that perspective, and I'm sure that's what it was. They weren't saying, hey, I don't know how this guy keeps coming back after last year, 2025, not being a great year in Strongman for Hooper. His winning streak came to an end. His podium streak came, his winning streak came to an end, and he faltered, and he wasn't the best last year. It wasn't a stellar athletic performance. Undoubtedly, they were talking about the drama with his family, infidelity, all of these things. I feel very, very uncomfortable addressing the topic, but I will. You guys asked me about the topic a lot last year, and every time I told you I was not going to talk about it the way that you guys wanted me to. So before I dive into this, and I will be as real as I possibly can be, I'm also going to say right now, Hoop, if you're watching this, I just want to let you know that I'm praying for you and Ashley and your kids. I've been doing that since all of this came out. I was actually praying for your family before the news came out, but I've continued to do that over the last year. I will continue to do that, and I want nothing but the best for you and your family. I want you and Ashley to be blessed tremendously, and I want the kids to benefit from that blessing. So I am praying for you, and I will continue to do that. So I will say that there. Now, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. How did I feel when the news came out? Well, first of all, I was disappointed. And I'm not going to pretend I wasn't. Was I disappointed in Mitchell Hooper? Some, maybe a little bit, but not that much, in that I don't worship Mitchell Hooper. I don't idolize Mitchell Hooper. I follow Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is my measuring stick, not some Canadian strongman called the Moose. Okay? So I don't set my heroes up to be people who are going to let me down. I have set my hero to be someone that I already know isn't going to let me down, that challenges me to not let others down. You see, I, as a licensed minister, have often encountered people who are like, oh, you think you're so special. Oh, you think that you're above everybody, and you think that you're better than everyone, and you want people to be like you. You're such a hypocrite. To which I always say, yes, I am a hypocrite. You're absolutely right. I don't dodge that. I am a hypocrite. But no, I don't think I'm better than anyone. In fact, I know that I am not better than anyone. And I have never, in my 46 years on earth, I have never told anyone that they should be more like Jace. Because you shouldn't be more like me. I tell everyone to be more like Jesus. If you are setting me as your measuring stick, if you are making me the goal that you are striving for, I'm telling you that you are setting the bar way too low. Way too low. I am not one to be emulated. Mitchell Hooper is not one to be emulated, which is why he is not the one that I idolize. He is not the one that I worship. I was disappointed when the news came out. Maybe, like I said, a little bit in him, but not really. The most of the disappointment came in the anguish of knowing the pain that infidelity and brokenness in a marriage can have. And I was disappointed in knowing what it was going to mean for their family. I didn't know if it meant that divorce was going to be in their future after they had just gotten married. That's, you talk about a rocky start. That's about as rocky as it can get. I didn't know if they were going to be able to overcome that or not. I believed that they could, because I believe in redemption, which has been the story of this entire video if you've been paying attention for me. I believe that they could, but that doesn't mean that people are willing to do what it takes to be redeemed. It doesn't come easy. It's difficult. It's hard. It's hard for every person involved. And even if Mitchell Hooper was willing to put that work in, that didn't mean that Ashley was willing to allow him to put that work in. There's a lot of moving components here. And so most of my disappointment wasn't in the man. My disappointment was in the brokenness that it would mean for them as a unit, and the pain that they were going to have to endure. And then I had to fight that disappointment to say, okay, it's a bad thing, but we have to hope for the best for them. We have to want the best for them, and we have to applaud that effort. We have to believe in redemption, and that's what I want for them. And that being said, the one thing I don't agree with Mitchell Hooper on is when he said, hey, if you aren't cheering for that, go F yourself. No, I don't have a go F yourself attitude to anyone. I have a lot of detractors. I've had people show up in my videos and say some really, really horrible things to me when I'm not doing anything except defending other people. Sometimes defending Hooper gets me cussed out. Sometimes saying, hey guys, when you're watching the women compete in Strongman, let's care more about the athletes and what they're doing than talking about how they look. And I have had people come in and call me a pedophile while watching my video simply because I had the audacity to say something nice about someone that they don't like. So what I would say is, even when I've been charged with these things, I don't have a go F yourself thing. In fact, you want me to be real with you guys? I am a victim of sexual abuse as a child. And I am a victim of many, many types of abuse. And I don't even look at those that abused me and think, go F yourself. And I don't want bad things for them. I want goodness, blessings, forgiveness, and redemption for everyone. And why do I want that? Because I am a bit more selfish than you might believe. You see, I already admitted that I'm a hypocrite. But you know what? The truth of the matter is that I believe that all 8.5 billion people on planet Earth are hypocrites. I don't think it's a matter of, is this person a hypocrite or not? I think that we're all hypocrites. The only thing that changes is not whether we are or aren't a hypocrite. It's what subject matter does it choose to show up in. Where will our double standards be revealed? Where will we find ourselves champion for something for me, but arguing against it for someone else? I have no problem looking in the mirror and admitting that I struggle with things. I struggle with things that I tell other people not to do. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think I'm just honest enough to admit it. But that being said, when I look at why I don't champion for defeat for my detractors or my abusers, it's because very simply it goes back to my faith. And I'm not trying to preach at you right now, although maybe I am. But my faith is very real and it's very important to me. And what my Jesus told me was that if I want to be forgiven, I must first forgive. If I want to experience mercy, I must first offer mercy. If I want to have a chance to ever sample eternal life and walk in heaven, I have to want that for other people. I cannot be the kind of person that wants mercy for me and justice for you. Hope you get what's coming to you, pal. Because I certainly hope I don't get what's coming to me, because I deserve some pretty terrible punishments because I am a sinner. And the scriptures tell us that the wages for sin is death. And it's not just talking about stopping breathing. It's talking about an eternal death. And that's exactly what I deserve. And I hope I don't get what I deserve. But according to Scripture, the only chance I have to wind up not getting what I deserve is if I hope and pray that you don't get what you deserve either, and that I offer you mercy and forgiveness. And so I encourage anyone that hasn't turned me off and pressed stop already and said, I'm not going back to that crazy Christian guy's channel, that's fine. But if you're still watching this, I would encourage you to think about all of the people right now that you can't stand. And I would encourage you to do the hardest thing in the world. Pray for them. Love them. Show them mercy and want the best for them. Not because they deserve it, but because someone loves you and you don't deserve it either. You see, that's the thing. And I'll leave it with this. We oftentimes say that everybody deserves to be loved. I have a different view on this. I think that nobody deserves to be loved. And that's precisely what makes love worth having and why it's so precious and why we all want it. You see, love is a gift. And a gift, by definition, is not something that you deserve. It is not something that you earn. When you deserve something, when you've earned it, that's a wage. That's a payment. That's a salary. That's quid pro quo. You did this, you get that. That's not a gift. A gift is something that is given to you freely, not because you deserve it, not because you earn it, because someone wanted to bless you with it and wanted you to have it. And that's what love is. Love is a gift. We don't deserve it, but that's specifically what makes it worth having and why it is so valuable and why it is so precious. And I want it for you. And I want it for Mitchell Hooper, and I want it for Ashley, and I want it for their babies. This did not go the way that I thought this video was going to go, but it was as real as I could possibly be. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.